Hey everyone. Oops. Let me put my microphone in. My bad. Okay. Okay, now I have my microphone in. And it's funny because I'm talking about improving your communication skills today. So now that we have the mic on, that's definitely improving my communication skills. So there's some foundational skills, right? There's practicing active listening. And this is really important when it comes to communication because you really want to be able to understand what the other person is saying. You want to be able to really fully engulf yourself in what this other person is saying and what they're trying to communicate with you. So, not thinking about the next thing you're going to say, but really practicing listening to each word and really trying to get a full scope of what this other person is trying to communicate to you. Active listening is super important, and it's a great way to build on your communication skills. Improve your body language. This is another big one. So, improving your body language means like we're going to keep full eye contact with the person that we're trying to communicate with. And this is just to show them respect. This is to show them that you're fully locked in and engaged with them. And also to really think about your body language as far as, do you have kind of closed off body language? Are you seeming to be kind of defensive? Are you in a defensive, posture position? Whereas having more open body language, really focusing on being able to smile or to have the appropriate, facial expression and all of that. You really want to be able to convey what you're trying to say through your body as well, by maintaining really open body language, by really engaging with that eye contact. Another great thing to do as far as a foundational skill goes is improve your vocabulary. This is something that is really easy to do, and it comes quite often simply by immersing yourself in a little bit of education by reading some books, right? Learning to improve your vocabulary so that way you can explain things a little bit more clearly. And so that way you're able to really communicate and share in the appropriate way. Because oftentimes you're going to hear people communicate with a lot of likes, right? Or you're going to hear people communicate with a lot of ums. And so, really thinking about how you can expand your vocabulary. And I would say the best way to do this is by reading books. But being able to expand your vocabulary, being able to explain whatever it is that you're wanting to communicate. And this is, of course, after practicing active listening, but being able to communicate on a more broader level because you have a wider range of words to choose from and of ways to communicate in multiple different ways. So that way, if one thing isn't working, then you know something else can, because you do have the synonyms, or you do have the ability to communicate because of the fact that you've spent time expanding your vocabulary. Okay, I'm looking at my notes real quick. Okay, speaking with clarity and confidence. This is a big one. When you're speaking with clarity and confidence, what that means is you're eliminating words, you're eliminating things that are going to distract from what it is you're attempting to communicate. When you lead with confidence, this really helps to make the other person fully be engaged with you, fully feel as though what you're talking about or what you're saying is coming from a place of knowledge, is coming from a place of experience, is coming from a place of, I can be empathetic to you because of my experiences. I am able to be confident in what I'm saying because I know exactly what I'm trying to say. I know exactly how to communicate this in the best way. Or even if you don't feel like that, telling yourself that you feel that way. Telling yourself, okay, I can speak confidently. I don't need to worry about pauses and using a lot of ums. having that, as I said before, that closed off body language, it just makes it more difficult to communicate. It just makes it more difficult to really get your thoughts across and your points across. And definitely having that confidence is such a big component. So maintaining that confidence, really knowing what you're saying, really being engaged with another person, these are all really huge foundational skills for improving your communication. So when it comes to verbal communication, this is where some people kind of have a more difficult time, right? Verbally communicating. Using simple and direct language, even if you have an expanded vocabulary, but being able to really concisely explain or concisely tell your story or concisely, just make it simple and not have it be super complicated, that's a great way to communicate more clearly. When we're not communicating clearly, it's when we're trying to use all these big words or we're trying to, um, make things a little bit more complicated than they really need to be. Using direct and precise language is the best way to communicate because you can communicate a simple idea or you can also communicate something that's a little bit more complex, but you're able to stay away from using jargon that's confusing and you're able to just speak in a very simple way so that way you can further communicate everything a lot more clearly. Ask open-ended questions. So this is a big one. Asking open-ended questions is something that's really important for engaging in a dialogue with another person, really getting a full understanding of what it is that they're talking about and what it is that they're communicating to you. Asking open-ended questions also shows interest. And everyone likes to feel like someone is really invested and listening and really wanting to listen when someone's speaking. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Our whole point of communication is to get something across, or our whole point of communication is to develop that ability to truly listen and to not be just ready with the next thing you're going to say, but to really engage in, okay, what is this person saying? How is this relevant to me? What can I how can I make them feel more comfortable? How can I make them feel like I am here to listen? Like I'm here to really have a dialogue that is really on point with what this other person is trying to communicate to you. Practice storytelling. So in this realm, it's structure your ideas with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So having you know a way to have a beginning, middle, and end, right? Have that storytelling component. Have it be logical with timelines. Have it be um, very concise and very easily broken down, just so that way you can communicate this more clearly. You can have a start and an end point, and you're not going to be going on forever, or you're not going to be offending the other person because you're keeping it to a system of beginning, middle, and end. Be aware of your tone of voice. This is something that oftentimes tone of voice is a huge component of communication and how to improve communication. We all know that voice when someone is upset or irritated, how it gets kind of lower, it gets sharper. When you're trying to communicate something, you really want to try to do it with a smile, especially if it's something positive or something that you want to really have the other person feel warm and like they're invited to approach you and like they are able to get a full sense of what it is you want to communicate, of being able to make that person feel warm and have them ask you open-ended questions as well, have them have interest in what you're saying, be putting energy into these conversations because we really want to be able to communicate and communicate where we don't have to constantly repeat ourselves, when there's a opportunity to understand from the beginning, from the first time that we're told something. And wouldn't that be a great thing, instead of having to be told multiple times or having things being explained multiple times, being able to communicate in a way where the first explanation or the first conversation is something that is understood. So, nonverbal communication and emotion. Be mindful of facial expressions. Sometimes people don't really think about their facial expressions, and people don't really think about what that is communicating to another person. If we're, thinking about something or focused on something, and sometimes we'll get that, very plain, face, that very kind of off in La La Land face where you look as though you're uninterested, or you look as though you're, not really wanting to hear. And it could just be based on frowning. It could be based on any type of perceived negative facial expression. This is something that is something you just want to keep in mind and think about when you're having a conversation with someone, or before you're having a conversation with someone. Really practice honing in your facial expressions to match your tone, to match the whatever it is that you're speaking about, the seriousness of the subject or the lightheartedness of the subject. Learn to read other people's cues. So, paying attention to their body language, paying attention to their comfortability or their uncomfortability, really paying attention to their facial expression, their tone of voice. Is this a dialogue that is comfortable and that is open and that is, going to a positive direction? Or is this a type of communication where it's serious, or it's a type of communication where there's some negativity? How can we change that to make it be a little bit more open, a little bit more coming from a place of understanding? Develop empathy, understand and relate to others' emotions before responding. So really try to, walk in the shoes of this person, whatever it is that they're saying. Really try to hear and listen and pay attention, and really try to hone in on this person and try to understand them, not just thinking again of the next thing you want to say, but really coming from a place of wanting to understand, of wanting to have that empathy, of wanting to make the other person feel warm, feel seen, feel heard. And stay calm under pressure, right? Regulate emotions to maintain clear, respectful communication. There's going to be times when you're going to be in the middle of a conversation and it could get heated, or it could get complicated, or it could get to a spot where you're not really feeling comfortable. But you have to be able to really come in on yourself, really think about it, think about your emotions, think about how you're feeling, and really work on regulating them. Really work on maintaining an even keeled point of view, and an even keeled emotional regulation toolbox, right? So really understanding your emotions, how they affect things, how they affect your communication, and how regulating your emotions can lead to much more positive outcomes when you're communicating with another person. All right, so practice and feedback. A great thing you can do if you feel as though you need extra work on your communication skills is role play with someone that you trust. Whether it's rehearsing a difficult conversation, or whether it's just wanting to kind of check and see, okay, am I communicating this in an effective way? Am I able to really be in that zone of being able to actively listen and being able to role play this with another person, especially if it's a difficult conversation. With difficult conversations, if you really want to have succinct and positive conversation, you want to come from a place of being able to communicate that very clearly and concisely. Again, using simple words, using simple communication skills, having that open body language, really focusing on practicing this, because sometimes we just need practice. This is sometimes foreign to people. This is sometimes things that people don't really think about, or they don't really put a lot of, they don't practice, they just don't practice it. And a lot of times people don't realize how they're coming off. So you really want to be able to, especially with a difficult conversation, perhaps rehearse it with someone that you trust and really kind of pan out any of the unsmoothness or any of the pauses or things that are naturally going to happen when it comes to difficult conversations. Another thing you can do is record yourself speaking to evaluate your tone, your pace, and your clarity. Recording yourself speaking is not something that I expect people to do when it comes to improving their communication, but it really can be eye-opening. It can really show you and present to you how effectively you're communicating. You can really hear your tone. You can really hear the way that you're speaking. You can really listen to your words. You can really see, okay, is this the most effective way to communicate? Am I giving this the right amount of skills? Am I using my skills? Am I able to keep in mind all of these things that we've kind of talked about already? Am I able to do this? And everyone can be a better communicator. This is something that is across the board. Not any one person is the most perfect communicator, but we can all strive to communicate better. So that way our lives are just more positive. Our lives are just more simple. And that's all because we're able to have that open communication, that open dialogue. We have that empathy for other people. So you can also seek feedback from those around you. If you have a speech impediment, for example, or if you have things that are an impediment to your communication, you can really get awesome feedback from a trusted individual, a trusted person, someone close to you, someone who understands maybe the way that you're communicating now and maybe sees that it's not at its most effective. Or maybe they're going to notice something that you yourself may not notice. So they'll notice, the pauses, or they'll notice that you're not having really a beginning, middle, and end, or they'll notice that your body language is very closed off, or they'll notice that your facial expressions and your tone aren't really matching what it is that you're trying to communicate, or what it is that you're trying to do when you're listening to someone actively, and the type of body language that you have even during that, maintaining the open body language, really being there for the communication from this other person and really listening and really just honing in on giving this person your full attention, of trying to come to a place of understanding before you even go to responding. There's also stuff you can do if this is something that's incredibly important to you. There's clubs and groups you can join. One of them is Toastmasters. So again, this is just to help your communication. This is about giving public speeches and really learning how to not feel so overwhelmed when you're trying to communicate something to someone. Sometimes that's something that happens, especially when it's a conversation that's going to be a little bit more difficult. You might be overwhelmed or you might be unsure. And again, coming from a place of confidence, that's the hugest thing. You can fake it till you make it. You can really just come inside yourself and be like, okay, I can really take the reins of this conversation, or I can really take the reins of my communication level, my communication skills. I can choose to improve them if I want. I can come from a place of simple communication. I can come from a place of being able to be open and warm and inviting. And when it comes to digital communication, because this is something that is a little trickier, right? You're not able to see this person's, or you're not really able to hear this person's tone. You're not really able to pick up all the extra cues from their body language or from their facial expressions. So digital communication is something that's important. And you want to keep written messages clear, concise, and polite, especially in texts or emails. So I really think that using proper punctuation, trying to limit the amount of um, words that you're using that stand for something else, like WID, what you doing. Not everyone is on the same page when it comes to words that stand for a phrase, or just a single word that stands for a phrase. Not everyone is up to date on that, or there might be different types of meanings for something like a word like that. It's really great to just use as much as you can proper English to try to think of communicating everything in a explained way, but not overly, not to where you're just trailing off, but going to a place of, okay, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to use my punctuation marks because it's going to help me set the tone. It's going to help me get to a place of being able to, have those periods, have those exclamation marks, have those ways of showing how you're feeling about this certain subject. Like I said, use punctuation and formatting to improve readability. Definitely having separate paragraphs for certain things, especially if you're going to be changing the topic or the subject. Having it be organized in a way that is clear, that is easy to read, easy to understand, easy to be able to say, okay, I completely understand what this person is trying to tell me. This information is being reported clearly to me, and this is something that I'm able to understand and really able to be able to formulate a response after really practicing that active reading, which is similar to the active listening. And really watching a person, again, you're not going to be able to do that with digital communication, but you are able to express tone using punctuation. And avoid misunderstandings by double checking your tone. I would say by double checking your use of periods and apostrophes and exclamation points, really seeing if you are putting too much excitement into something by using several punctuation points as far as a exclamation point goes, or if you're just being cognizant of your tone and the way that you can improve your tone, or the way that you can add to something to make something more fully explained. If you are going to say a joke, you can say, this is a joke, just trying to have as clear communication as possible, so that way there's no mix-ups, there's no miscommunication. And that, with miscommunication, that often leads to a lot of turmoil and a lot of confusion. And that's exactly what we're trying to eliminate. So going through all those points, I really hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you now feel as though you have more tools, you have more of a better understanding of how to improve your communication, how to be more of a confident communicator, and just how to be able to really get rid of a lot of the misunderstandings and the confusion and the things that come along with miscommunication. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join one of the membership tiers as it is popping off. And I will see you on the next live stream or video. Be well, stay wild as well.